Alright then guys, welcome back. So in this video I'm going to be talking about the DM-262 bilateral laser distance meter, and it's by a company called Inkerma. But before I get into the video, I just wanted to point out that they did send me the device free of charge for the purposes of the review. However, I'm not being told how to script the video. I'm not being paid to make the video, and I'm not being coerced into saying anything positive. I'm going to give you the honest truth as I see it. And I've not personally seen anything like this before. I've seen single laser measuring meters, but never a dual laser. Now, to start with, I'm going to show you what comes in the box. Then I'll explain briefly the different functions that you can do with the device. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you all the features, as there's just too much to go through in one video. However, I will try and show you some of them. Now, I just want to point out that because the device is fairly small with a small screen, I'm going to try and get the camera in as close as possible so you can see what I'm actually talking about as I explain it. But I'm not sure how clear it's going to be, but I will do my best. So without further ado, let's crack on with the video and show you what the device is all about. Okay then guys, so I'll give you a quick look at the box. It's quite a small box. Now on the sides, you might not be able to pick it up because it is quite small. It just goes through some of the features. We'll go into these in more detail with different ways that you can use the device. So in the box, you get the usual instruction booklet. Now one thing I just want to point out, most reviews I do are take a first look at the product, and 9 times out of 10 I can figure it out without really looking at the instructions. This, however, I couldn't work any of it out, so it is highly advisable to actually sit down and read through the instructions a couple of times. I've had to read these a few times to actually work out how to do it, but it's well worth it because once you know how to use it, it's really interesting. And then you get the laser unit itself. Quite small. I mean, you can see it fits nicely in the hand. Underneath there should be some other items in the box. I'll take that out, and as you can see, comes with a nice pouch. If you're carrying it around, keeps it safe. Not sure if there's anything in there. Should be. And you have your USB-C charging lead for the internal battery. Okay then guys, so before we dive in and take a look at the unit itself, I just want to go over what you can actually do with the machine. So the first thing I want to talk about is the measurement references with either the bilateral or unilateral laser. So bilateral obviously means 2, so you have a laser on both sides, front and rear, and you can stand in between 2 points and it will give you the measurements from both sides and add it together, so you get 3 separate measurements. Unilateral obviously means single, so you get 1 laser and there's 2 reference points you can actually measure from. The first is the rear of the measuring device, so you can put it against a wall on one side of a room and it will measure the total distance from the wall to the opposite wall, or you can actually take the measurement from the front of the device. So it depends what you're doing and how you want to set it up. So what can a device be used for? First thing is obviously for measuring distances, so width of a room, length of a room. You can do the width of a window, width of a corridor, whatever you want to measure, you can do it with this. Then you've got what they call active mode or real-time measurements. And what that means is, instead of measuring it normally where you would put this where you're measuring from, aim the laser where you're measuring to, and then press a button to record the distance, on active mode, wherever you move this around, it automatically recalibrates and like changes the distance. So what you can do, if you've got 3 points you want to measure from in a room, say, go to the first one, and it will, once you put it down, it will take the measurement. So you write that down, and then just pick it up, plonk it down in the next position, and it will automatically recalculate the measurements. You can put that down, and so on and so on. And it just means you don't have to set it to 0 and start again every time you want to make a new measurement. So next up, you can do the volume. So you measure the length and the width of a room, and then the height, and that will give you the total volume. Now you don't have to do the whole room. Just say, for argument's sake, you wanted to put in a 6-inch concrete slab in that room. Then what you would do is measure the length and the width of the room, and then measure 6 inches to the floor as your height, and that will give you the volume of your concrete slab, and then that makes it easier to order materials. All right, so the next few ways to measure, I had to read over this a few times to kind of understand, because maths is not one of my strong points. Anything to do with like maths and angles and things like that is like straight over my head. But I'll give you a brief outline of what I'm talking about. So you've got the indirect height measurement. So if you want to measure, say, the height of a wall, you would make sure that the device is on the level that you're measuring from. So you would put it on the floor, and then you would aim the laser at the highest point on the wall, and then press the button, and that will give you the height of the wall. So next up, you have the double indirect height measurements. So it's basically the same as the last one, only this time you're taking 2 measurements, and the device will be in the middle, and it must remain in the same place for both measurements. Then you just measure the lowest point and the highest point, and it will give you the height of the wall. So next up, we have the non-vertical indirect measurement. So basically, if you want to measure a window, say it's high up on a wall, and you can't get to it, or you've not got a ladder or whatever, but you need to measure it, what you can do is you can select your reference point from anywhere, as long as it's below the lowest point that you're measuring, i.e. the bottom of the window. So I could put it kind of this height and aim it up, take 2 measurements, one from the lowest point, one from the highest point, and it will give me the measurement of the window. So that basically covers the measurements that you can do. The other 2 things that you can do on this, obviously you can record and save data. So all the measurements that you take, it will save. There's not actually an internal memory card in the device, but it will save a large amount of measurements. So should be more than enough to go out, do a job and save whatever you need. Also, you can do addition and subtraction. So if you want to add areas together or take areas away or whatever, you can do all of that on the device as well. So that just about covers everything briefly. Now let's dive in close, and I'll try and do my best to show you the device up close. Okay then, let's run through the buttons quickly. So there's 6 buttons in total, and they've all got multiple functions. So the big one at the top is your power on, and it's the button you press to record measurements. This one, top left, is your screen rotate, and if you long press it, it enlarges the font. This one is to select which measuring function you want from the menu, and also it's to change your measuring reference point from bilateral, so when you've got the laser from the front and the rear of the machine, or unilateral, where you can either have it measuring from the back of the device or the front of the device, and you do that with a long press. This one is to change the unit of measurements, so from meters to feet and inches, etc. It's your addition button and your left when scrolling through the menu. This one is your mute button, so the buttons won't make any noises when you press them. It's your subtraction button, and it's also right for when scrolling through the menu. And the bottom one is your delete or undo button, and to power the unit off, you you just long press this one, and that is that. Okay, so to power on the machine, you just press the on button and the screen will light up. It comes automatically on bilateral mode, so these two arrows indicate that you've got a front and rear laser. This one is your reference mode, what you're in, and at the moment it's displaying it's in bilateral mode. This is the unit of measurement, or just a single measurement. Now this is your angle, and as you change the angle, this will change the amount of degrees, and that's obviously your battery indicator. So if we look at the top left here and see if I can do this, if I can press and hold this button, you'll see it's now changed the top left display, and the reference point is now from the back, and we're in unilateral mode, which is a single laser. If I press the button again, keep your eye on that display, and you'll see it's changed to the top, so we're just measuring from the front. And then to get it back into bilateral, press it again, and that's basically the screen. Okay, so you've got it in meters. According to this, we're in bilateral mode, and also because the two arrows are on the display. So if I want to take, oh, well, we're also on a single measurement. So if I want to take measurement, press that button, and that will give me the measurement. So because I'm doing it in bilateral, meaning arrow front and back, it's 1.820 from the right side of the room and 2.396 to the left side of the room, and then it gives you your total. To clear that, we just press the bottom one. So now let's say I want to do the area. Excuse me. So press this button up here. That will take you to the menu, and then you use these buttons to scroll through the menu. So we go to this one, which is area. Press the top one to select it. Now you do the same thing. So obviously press this one. That will give you your first measurement. Then you would turn it round and do the opposite walls, but I'm going to pretend I've turned it round and press it again. So you get your second measurement, and then it gives you your total. So zero that once again. We can press this button. Now let's say we want to do volume. So we press this, and we come down to the cube and select that. That's your volume. Now, because I'm leaving it here, I'm going to leave it in the bilateral mode and just assume that this was in one location in the middle of the room. But normally you'd probably put it on to measure from the back of the unit, then you would place this against the wall, both sides of the room, and then put it on the floor to get your height. But you just have to imagine I'm doing all of that. So we'll take the first measurement. Okay, then we'd swap it around, do the other way. And then you would put it on the floor and point it at the ceiling. And that gives you your three different measurements and tells me that it's over 69 meters volume. Same thing to reset it. Just press the bottom one. So let's say I want to go into active mode, which is the one where you don't have to keep zero in it and pressing the button. So press this one, go into the menu. Then what I want to do is go back up to the middle one at the top. We select that. This is active mode, so if we press it, you'll get the constant beeping. Now if you don't like the beeping, like I say, you can press this one and hold it down, and that will mute the beeping. And obviously to put it back on again, So what this is doing in active mode is every time you move the device, it recalibrates and changes the measurements. So if I move it, so move it back a bit, it then changes the measurements. So I'll move it forward again, and it'll redo the measurements. So it saves you having to zero it every time, because you can just move it and it automatically reads the new measurement. Just stop that. Press that zeroes it out again. So that is basically the machine. Obviously, there's all these other things you can do, like the Pythagorean theory or whatever it's called. And here is where your data, if I go down to that, which is your data, and then press that, these are all the measurements that you kind of saved in the unit. Now obviously if you want to delete them, just press that button and it will go through and start deleting everything, and in long press we'll turn it off. And that is basically it in a nutshell. Okay then guys, so I hope I've shown enough so people can actually see the benefits of having a device like this and some of the tasks that you can carry out with this device. I've got to say, now I've got my head round it, it's actually a lot more straightforward to use than I originally thought. When I first opened the instruction book and started reading through, I was like a bit taken back with how much there is to actually learn, but once you get your head around it, it's actually really simple. It's just one of them things you definitely have to read the instruction manual on. Okay, so if anyone wants to take a look at the device itself, I'll leave links in the video description which will take you directly to the measuring device and you can check it out. The company has generously given me a 10% off discount code for all my lovely YouTube viewers and supporters of my channel, so you can save yourself 10%. There's also a voucher available on Amazon at the moment, so you can save some additional money. And also they give me a 20% off code, which can be used on the upcoming Amazon Prime days, which are coming up in the near future. So be sure to check out the links. All the codes and details for everything will be in the video description, so make sure you go and check that out and at least take a look at the product. I think it's definitely worth having. A bit daunting when you first start looking through the instruction manual, but once you get your head around it, it's a fantastic bit of kit and I'm quite impressed by what it can actually do. So yeah, links in the video description. So that's it from me. Until the next video, stay safe and you will see me in the next video, guys.